Snark Squad. Babes! It's Sunday evening, and babes,
Ooh.
we are locked in.
We are so intensely locked in. Like, I have literally turned my phone on Do Not Disturb. I have completely mentally prepared myself for the absolute emotional warfare that is about to just, take place.
We need to talk, because Season 3 of Euphoria is off to a wild start. And babes, we have thoughts. Too many thoughts. Like, we will get into those later, but babes, this episode was a goddamn trip.
I mean, imagine being $500,000 in debt to, like, an actual violent criminal syndicate, right? And your biggest, most pressing concern is paying $50,000 for neighborhood barbecue flowers just so your neighbors don't think you're poor.
Wait, I can't.
That is the exact psychological delusion we are unpacking today.
Yeah.
It's fascinating. It is completely horrifying. And I'm still trying to process the absolute madness of the last hour of television. Like, I'm intrigued, but my brain is currently misfiring trying to connect all these dark dots.
I am starting from a place of just, like, intense, morbid curiosity, But I know by the end of this conversation, I'm going to be completely, utterly, emotionally overwhelmed.
Oh, absolutely. We're going to spiral.
I feel like I am standing in the middle of a highway, and I can literally see Sam Levinson driving an 18-wheeler straight toward me.
Yes.
And the truck is full of, like, Aperol spritzes, fake nursing home brochures, and sheer unfiltered trauma.
Right. Well, before we spiral completely into the wreckage of East Highland's finest, let's set the scene and ground ourselves for a second.
Yes. We have pineapple tequila on deck. And babes, it is delicious. And honestly, maybe nutritious, so it should be good. Cheers.
Cheers. Clinking my glass to yours.
Mm-hmm.
Cheers to vitamin C and adopting highly questionable emotional coping mechanisms to survive premium cable television tonight.
Let's talk life, rose and thorns for the upcoming week, but not work-related. Because, babes, we are dentists, but we are not doing that today.
Oh, absolutely not. If I have to look at one more bicuspid or, like, discuss the structural integrity of a root canal this week, I am actually going to lose my mind.
No, I forbid it. No teeth talk.
So my thorn, and honestly, this is a thorn that has been just festering all week, is touring apartments. And I want to connect this to our main topic today because my apartment hunt has been an exercise in the exact kind of false facades we literally see on the show.
Oh my God, moving is actual literal hell. It is the most emotionally draining, like, logistical nightmare you can undertake in your 20s and 30s. I am stressing out just thinking about it for you.
It is awful.
The credit checks, the landlords who look at you like you're actively plotting to, dismantle their property.
Exactly, but it's the false advertising that really gets me right. It is the illusion of value. Like, let's rank the chaos.
Yeah.
Tier 3 of my apartment hunting chaos. The unit that was advertised on the portal as cozy, sun-drenched minimalist living.
Oh, no.
But was actually just a walk-in closet with a hot plate next to the toilet. Tier 2, the landlord who demanded to know my astrological sign and my Enneagram type before showing you the bathroom, which, by the way, I assume is a massive violation of the Fair Housing Act.
You are joking. Wait, no, stop it. What was Tier 1?
Tier 1, the absolute peak of my thorn this week. The realtor took me to a place, unlocked the door, and there was a grown man asleep on an inflatable mattress in the middle of the living room floor.
What? No.
And the realtor didn't even blink. He just whispered, "He comes with a unit, but he's very quiet. Mostly works nights."
I would have literally started crying. I would have walked right back to my car. That is actually terrifying.
I did walk away, obviously. But it got me thinking about how much of our society is just, slapping a fresh coat of paint over a structural disaster. That landlord was trying to sell me a nightmare wrapped in the word co-living space.
Right.
It's the Temkin wealth. You build a fake front to hide the rot behind it. Which honestly is a perfect segue into the themes of today's conversation.
Okay, well, my rose to counter that absolute nightmare is that we finally got to catch up and visit Joan and Felicia, the OG Snark queens.
Yes. Oh my gosh, that was a massive high. It's always so good to see them.
We tried that new tapas restaurant downtown, and the food was incredible, but the vibes, chaotic.
Completely chaotic.
We were sitting next to a couple on what was very clearly a catastrophic first date. Like, the guy spent 20 solid minutes aggressively explaining cryptocurrency to her.
Ugh, the worst.
I am talking about blockchain mechanics, decentralized finance, the works, and I was making full eye contact with this poor woman across the table, like telepathically sending her an extraction plan.
You were practically vibrating in your seat, trying not to intervene. It was painful to watch. He was just trying to assert intellectual dominance as a substitute for an actual personality.
Exactly. But honestly, the real chaotic low of the week is just how impossibly hard it is to make plans with anyone in your late 20s and 30s.
Oh, it requires a level of project management that I simply do not have the bandwidth for.
You have to sync like 4 different Google calendars,
Literally.
account for commuting times, factor in everyone's varying levels of social exhaustion. It's a whole thing.
Yes, it is a logistical nightmare. We all have jobs. We are dentists.
Yeah.
And trying to get 4 people in a room for Patakas Bravas took 6 weeks of aggressive, high-stakes negotiation.
Which brings up a very interesting point about logistics and knowing exactly where people are at all times.
Okay, wait. We need to discuss something. Location sharing. Pause. Because, babes, this is a conversation.
Oh, here we go. I knew this was coming based on the TikTok you sent me this morning.
Do you share your location? Why?
Yeah.
I want us to be messy and honest right now. Because I will admit it, right here, right now, I check the map, I stalk my friends.
You are so toxic for that. If you tell me you are so exhausted and just going to sleep, and I open the app and see your little memoji bouncing around at a dive bar downtown at 1 a.m., I am taking a screenshot, I am putting it in the group chat, and I am demanding answers.
See, this is exactly why I am fundamentally opposed to mass location sharing. It is what we can call, like, interpersonal surveillance capitalism.
Oh, here come the big words.
Surveillance capitalism is essentially when corporations mine your personal data to control or monetize your behavior. Right. But we have adapted that into our personal lives. We have decided that sacrificing our fundamental right to privacy is a fair trade for the illusion of safety, or, let's be honest, the satisfaction of our own nosiness.
It's not nosiness.
I share my location with exactly 2 people. You, because you will call the National Guard if I don't text back within 4 hours, and my mother, for medical emergencies only.
But it's about safety. It really is. And also, yes, okay, being incredibly nosy, I want to know where you are.
Follow-up question then.
Yeah.
The real debate. Would you share your location with a partner?
Yes, absolutely, 100%. It depends on trust, obviously, but for me, it's an emotional connection thing.
Really?
Yes. I want to know you got to work safely. I want to know if you're stuck in traffic on the 405 so I know when to start boiling the pasta for dinner. It feels intimate to me. It feels like we are tethered in a good way. If you have absolutely nothing to hide, why wouldn't you share it?
Oh, I am going to push back on that so hard. If you have nothing to hide is literally the battle cry of every surveillance state in history.
Oh my God, you're so dramatic.
It is a boundary issue. As an independent adult, I need a perimeter.
Yeah.
I do not need my partner looking at their phone and knowing in real time that I am sitting in the Taco Bell drive-thru for the 3rd time this week at 11 p.m.
That is highly specific.
I deserve the right to make shameful, crunch-wrap, supreme-related decisions in absolute, unmitigated secrecy.
You can turn it off for an hour. You just pause it.
And then what happens? Your partner gets the location pause notification, which immediately incites a panic attack, a spiral of distrust, and an accusation of infidelity. It breeds codependency.
I mean,
We do not need a digital tether tracking our every move like we're out on parole. It creates a dynamic where you are constantly monitoring each other's worth and honesty based on geographic coordinates.
I don't know, maybe I'm just toxic, but the thought of not knowing where my partner is makes my chest tight. It's not about controlling them. It's about knowing they are safe in a really unpredictable world.
I hear what you're saying about safety. I really do. But I think it so easily tips into control. And, speaking of people who use surveillance and tracking to manipulate, control, and ultimately commodify the people around them.
Nice transition.
We need to transition to East Highland.
Smooth. Very smooth. Because if anyone needed their locations tracked, their finances audited, and their internet access completely revoked this week, it is the entire cast of Euphoria. Snark Squad, let's get into the recap of Season 3, Episode 2, America My Dream. And I am just going to start by screaming into the void.
Let's look at the overall vibes of this week first, because the online chatter like the Snark Squad in the Reddit threads and the Twitter spaces is completely, violently divided right now.
So divided.
A lot of people are rejecting the new direction, but mathematically.
Yeah.
Viewership is up 44% from the premiere. We are talking 8.5 million viewers in 3 days. We are all either hate watching it to complain, or we are just entirely captivated by this massive tonal shift.
The tone is so jarringly different. Where is the glitter? Where is the neon lighting? Where are the surreal floating hallway scenes? And I have to say this, I am physically aching from the absence of Levin's music. I can feel his absence in the marrow of my bones during every single scene. The show feels so quiet, so stark, and so dread-inducing without his score lifting it up into this ethereal teenage dream.
Well, that absence is entirely intentional. The aesthetic shift makes perfect psychological sense when you look at the narrative timeline. They aren't in high school anymore. The safety net of adolescence, even a traumatic adolescence, is completely gone.
Yeah, that's true.
This episode felt distinctly like a grimy Quentin Tarantino Western. The fans online are literally calling it Tarantino shit.
Yes, the standoff energy was so intense.
Exactly. Why a Western? Because a Western is fundamentally about lawlessness, about frontier justice. The institutions that are supposed to protect you, like schools, parents, the police, they are either entirely absent or deeply corrupt. East Highland has become the Wild West. You have these revenge plots, people settling debts with violence, and Alamo Brown acting like a modern-day outlaw delivering these sweeping monologues about the frontier.
Oh my God, that speech. When Alamo is giving the monologue to Rue, talking about how 200 years ago, people rode out west and faced bandits and grizzlies and starvation, and the whole endeavor was just a massive roll of the dice.
Right.
And he looks at Rue across the table and asks, "What am I facing and who are you?" It was chilling. It set the stakes so high right from the jump.
It really did.
Yay.
But honestly, the person who completely stole the opening for me and who perfectly embodies this new survival of the fittest frontier mentality is Maddie Perez.
Oh, let's talk about Maddie's corporate hustle. Because we have to go deep into this. We get this flashback to her pitching herself to Mrs. Penzler, the high-powered talent agent. Maddie has no money. She has no college degree. She has no safety net. She just has the clothes on her back, a terrifying level of confidence, and absolute sheer willpower.
From a sociological standpoint, it is a brilliant encapsulation of the modern creator economy. Let's break down what Maddie is actually doing.
Yeah.
During the pandemic, her mother's nail salon was forced to close. Maddie, barely out of her teens, is suddenly paying her mother's rent.
Which is so much pressure.
She cannot afford to be a child anymore. So she becomes what she coins a career architect for this bland, suburban TikTok girl named Caitlin.
And she builds Caitlyn's following from literally 0 to 1 million followers, purely off aesthetics, lighting, and curating this very specific sanitized vibe. And she promises Penzler that there will be absolutely no nudity involved.
Right. Maddie understands that in the digital age, attention is the most valuable currency, and she knows exactly how to manufacture it. But how do managers extract value? They act as the gatekeepers between the raw talent Caitlin and the corporate sponsors.
Yeah.
But then Penzler, the older institutional power, forces Maddie to drop Caitlin. Why? Because Penzler's traditional A-list clients don't want to be associated with someone who might eventually pivot to adult content.
Even though Maddie tries to fight it?
She does. Maddie argues that the norms are changing, that the stigma is evaporating, and that it's a booming industry.
But Maddie has to cave. Out of safety for her own precarious job at the agency, she drops Caitlin. And then what happens? Fast forward a year, and Caitlin is on OnlyFans making $700,000 a month.
It's insane.
$700,000 a month. And Maddie missed out on her 15% cut of that.
Which is exactly why Maddie delivers that incredible defining monologue to Penzler. She realizes she played by the rules of the old corporate structure, and the old structure screwed her out of life-changing wealth.
That quote, I need it framed in my living room right now.
Yeah.
She looks this powerful woman dead in the eye and says, I know my generation's entitled, but I don't believe anybody owes me anything. I'm not a victim. I won't be an HR nightmare, and I believe in capitalism.
It's a chilling declaration of intent. But I have to push back on how the fandom is interpreting this. The Snark Squad online is having this massive debate right now. Is Maddie a feminist girl boss securing her bag, or is she just becoming a predatory female pimp for the internet age? People are accusing her of straight-up exploitation.
I mean, isn't there a point where survival turns into exploitation? She is actively seeking out desperate women to commodify. Like, I get that she has to pay her mom's rent, but sanctioning the sheer humiliation of other women just to get a percentage of their dignity, that's not just surviving, that's predatory.
I see your point, but logically, Maddie is operating purely on survival instinct within a rigged system. She told Penzler she believes in capitalism. And what is capitalism at its core? It is the extraction of surplus value from labor.
Okay, Karl Marx.
Maddie realizes that the only way to not be the one exploited is to become the one doing the extracting. She missed out on the Caitlin gold rush. She is looking at the landscape, seeing that the commodification of the self is inevitable, and deciding she's going to be the one holding the leash, not the one wearing it.
God, that's dark. Which brings us to the most emotionally devastating, visually stunning reunion of the entire series. The Maddie and Cassie meet up at the Peninsula Hotel. Babes, the power dynamics in this scene.
It is an absolute masterclass in visual storytelling and costuming. Paint the picture of how they look.
Okay, so you have Maddie sitting by the luxury pool in the blazing 90-degree Los Angeles heat, wearing a massive, heavy, vintage fur coat.
The fur coat.
She is sweating, but she does not care because she is serving absolute mob wife untouchable realness. She is sipping an Aperol Spritz, completely unbothered, looking like she owns the hotel.
Iconic.
And then Cassie walks up in a pink, vintage, poochy two-piece skirt set, looking exactly like she did in high school, trying so desperately to be the cute, innocent, dew-eyed girl.
The contrast is everything. Maddie is dressed to project armor and wealth. Cassie is dressed to project vulnerability and youth. And Cassie sits down and gives this utterly pathetic, stammering apology for stealing Nate Jacobs and the whole Season 2 high school drama. She is waiting for Maddie to scream at her or throw a drink in her face or drag her into the pool.
And Maddie's reaction is what makes it so incredibly brutal. She doesn't yell, she isn't angry, she just looks at Cassie with pure, unadulterated pity. Maddie realizes in that moment that Cassie's life is so incredibly small that she is still holding on to a high school boy as some kind of victory.
Right.
Maddie has moved on to dominating the creator economy, and Cassie is still trapped in the exact same emotional cycle from senior year.
Exactly. Maddie has figured out how to monetize the male gaze, whereas Cassie is still a victim of it. Which perfectly segues into Cassie's current reality, her descent into OnlyFans.
I am physically unwell from watching those photo shoots. Maddie agrees to be her manager, but tells Cassie she needs a much higher aesthetic standard because her current content is degrading, cheap, and has no long-term shelf life.
And we see exactly what Maddie means through that incredibly disturbing montage. We have to discuss the mechanics of shock value here because Sam Levinson is doing something very intentional, albeit highly controversial. First, we have the dog photo shoot.
Ugh.
Then we have the baseball catcher shoot where she is wearing absolutely nothing but a leather mitt and eye black. And then the peak of controversy this week, the adult baby pacifier shoot. I couldn't look. I was literally staring at the wall. The sheer visceral humiliation of having to act that out. We hear Rue's voiceover, so flat and deadpan, saying Cassie is so desperate for attention she's willing to humiliate herself.
It's so hard to watch.
And the fan discourse right now is absolutely nuclear. The fans are furious. They feel like Cassie's deep Season 1 trauma, her absentee father, her abortion storyline, her deep-seated insecurities were completely abandoned just to reduce her to a money-hungry airhead whose only worth is male validation.
You have to look at the cinematography, too, to understand why the fans are so upset.
Okay.
Let's define the male gaze for a second. The male gaze is a concept in feminist film theory where the visual arts and literature depict the world and women from a masculine, heterosexual perspective, presenting women as objects of male pleasure.
Right.
Levinson's camera lingers on Cassie in a way that feels intensely voyeuristic. There's that scene of her completely nude licking an ice cream cone as it melts all over her chest. The Snark squad on Reddit is pointing out that it feels sleazy, manipulative. And when you pair Cassie's infantilization, literally putting a pacifier in her mouth, with the fact that they're doing this alongside Chloe Cherry's character, Faye, heavily sexualizing a former real-life porn actress, it creates an incredibly uncomfortable viewing experience. It forces the audience to ask, is the show critiquing the exploitation of young women, or is it just participating in it?
I completely agree. I think it crosses the line from critique into participation. But then, right in the middle of all this grossness, we get the Juana moment. This was the only time I laughed out loud during the entire hour.
It is arguably the best line of the episode.
Cassie is forcing her housekeeper, Juana, to act as her photographer for this baby fetish shoot. Cassie is rolling around on a bed with a giant lollipop, and in all her delusional, oblivious privilege, she looks up at Juana, who is just trying to clean the house and earn a paycheck, and asks if Juana wants more out of life. Like Cassie is suddenly this enlightened feminist guru.
And Juana, with the most deadpan, Oscar-worthy delivery, just stares at her, snaps the flash on the camera, and says, "America, my dream."
Give Juana an Emmy. Give her a raise. Give her a spinoff series immediately. I'm obsessed with her. She sees right through the absolute absurdity of these rich, broken white people.
It's the perfect encapsulation of the hollowness of the American dream this season. Cassie is degrading herself for what she mistakenly believes is empowerment and wealth. But logically, why is she doing this? She isn't doing it for feminist liberation. She's doing it because her fiancé is entirely underwater. Let's connect the dots here. Let's look at the mechanism of Nate Jacobs' current existence. Cassie is selling her body on the internet because Nate is secretly broke.
Oh my God, Nate. Let's unpack the suburban nightmare that is Nate Jacobs, because his facade is cracking so violently.
Let's talk about the concept of Potemkin wealth. I mentioned it earlier with the apartment hunting. A Potemkin village is a fake, hollow facade built solely to deceive people into thinking his situation is better than it is. Nate is running a financial Ponzi scheme where the only collateral is his own ego.
Wait, explain the math on this because it's insane.
The math on Nate is terrifying. He is $550,000 in debt to a violent gangster named Naz. If he doesn't cough up $100,000 in cash by Friday, the debt jumps to $600,000. He is drowning in high-interest underworld loans.
So what does he do? Does he sell his car? Does he get a real job? No. He throws a barbecue, a lavish, catered neighborhood barbecue in suburbia, purely to scam his older, popped-collar country club neighbors into investing in Sun Settlers, which, by the way, is a completely fake end-of-life care home. He is a white-collar con man. He is running a localized Theranos out of his backyard.
And he is putting up this massive, desperate front of wealth to secure their investments. But the writing gives us these brilliant, subtle details that reveal the truth. There's that scene where he's in the kitchen with Juana after the party, and he's aggressively refusing to let her throw away the leftover potato salad and hot dog buns.
Oh my God, the potato salad.
He is hoarding the leftovers in Tupperware because he literally cannot afford to buy groceries for the week.
He is eating stale hot dog buns while wearing a Rolex. But the barbecue scene itself, I was emotionally spiraling watching this. Heather, one of the nosy neighbors, somehow finds Cassie's OnlyFans account. She immediately shows her husband, Fred. And Nate, who realizes his entire fake moral image is about to be shattered, decides to publicly humiliate Cassie to save face.
This is where we see the psychology of his control. He doesn't pull her aside privately. He forces her to get her phone right then and there in front of the neighbors and delete the entire account. He destroys her only source of income, which happens to be the only thing keeping them afloat.
And how does he manipulate her into doing it? He promises to pay for the $50,000 wedding florals. A man who owes $500,000 to the mob, who is hoarding potato salad, is promising $50,000 for flowers just to maintain the illusion that he can control his woman.
He is paying off today's social debts with tomorrow's mob money. And the interest on that mob money isn't financial, it's physical. They're going to break his legs. But his ego cannot withstand the neighbors thinking his fiancée is an internet sex worker.
And then the true sociopathy comes out later in bed. He plays the victim. He tells Cassie he had to make her delete it because he hates secrets. He says he grew up in a house full of lies and secrets with his dad and he can't survive that again. He is actively weaponizing his childhood trauma to gaslight Cassie into total submission. It's a classic, textbook, toxic Nate Jacobs. He hasn't changed at all. He just found new ways to be abusive.
Speaking of the source of that childhood trauma, we have to discuss Cal's heartbreaking return to the show.
Oh, this hits so incredibly hard. Eric Dane returning as Cal Jacobs.
Yes, the show introduces him showing up heavily intoxicated at a sex and love addicts meeting. Rue's narration coldly refers to him as a broke sexual deviant. He has lost his construction empire, his family, his pristine reputation.
But we have to talk about how the show handled this on a meta level. We need to impartially report the facts of the episode while acknowledging the real world. Eric Dane, the actor, recently revealed a real-life ALS diagnosis. And the show, respectfully but so painfully, incorporated his actual physical decline into the character. Cal had slurred speech. His movement was visibly restricted. He was struggling to stand. It was incredibly painful to watch, but also so respectfully done by the production team. You could feel the raw emotion in the performance. It just breaks your heart for the actor while simultaneously serving the tragic, pathetic downfall of the character.
It was a very poignant, grounded moment in an episode that was otherwise flying completely off the rails. It anchored the narrative for a second and reminded us of the human cost of all these lies. But speaking of flying off the rails, let's pivot from Nate's white-collar suburban debt to Rue, who is dealing with actual gritty underworld crime.
Rue's dark era at the Silver Slipper strip club, she is in the thick of it. She is the one who cleans up after Tish tragically overdoses in the back room. And as a reward for her discretion, Alamo Brown promotes her to dancer wrangler at the club. And the motto of this club, I couldn't believe my ears: fully nude, always lewd.
And who do we see performing under that motto? Wearing a bedazzled medical neck brace. Rosalia.
Magic. I screamed at my television. Rosalia, in a crystal-encrusted neck brace grinding on a stripper pole, is the exact level of surreal camp I need to survive the darkness of the season. It was iconic.
It was a brilliant cameo. But Rue is sinking deeper to the quicksand. First, let's define her status. She claims she is California sober. For those who don't know, California sober typically means abstaining from hard drugs and alcohol, but still using marijuana or psychedelics. However, Rue seems to be using it as a blanket excuse to exist in highly triggering environments without admitting she's playing with fire.
She is hooking up with Angel, one of the young strippers,
Yeah.
in the parking lot. She is crossing every professional and personal boundary. And meanwhile, her boss Alamo is escalating this insane turf war with Lori, the terrifying drug dealer from season 2.
Okay, the Alamo versus Lori feud. We must impartially describe this sequence because it is a lot to process. Lori calls Alamo a pig on the phone during a dispute over territory. Alamo, taking this insult incredibly literally and deeply personally, decides to retaliate.
By dropping a literal, live, massive farm hog into Lori's living room, he breaks in and leaves a pig in her house, with a flag staked into the floor next to it that says, "Remember the Alamo."
And this is where the imagery gets incredibly chaotic. The camera pans, and we see Faye and Wayne, who has a massive swastika tattooed on his chest, hooking up on the couch. And there's a literal Nazi flag hanging on the wall in the background of Laura's house.
Insane.
And Faye, completely high, looks at the pig roaming around the living room and genuinely asks, "Is that a dinosaur?"
I am absolutely losing my mind at Sam Levinson's writing choices here. Just in partially looking at it from a structural standpoint, the shock value is off the charts. You have a live pig defecating on camera, you have deeply offensive, politically charged height symbols on the wall, and you have a girl asking if a farm animal is a Jurassic Park extra. It is absurdity layered on top of deeply offensive imagery layered on top of livestock. What are we doing here? What is the point?
Well, the point is pure provocation. It's the Tarantino homage gone fully off the rails into exploitation cinema. Levinson is using the swastika and the pig purely as visual shorthand to scream at the audience, like, these are the bad guys, this is the lowest rung of society, and there are absolutely no rules here. We are not endorsing any of the viewpoints or imagery presented. We are simply analyzing it as a tool the writer used to create maximum discomfort and chaos.
Right.
But the real casualty of this underworld plot isn't the pig, and it isn't Lori's rug. It's Angel.
Oh, Angel's disappearance. I need to take a deep breath because Priscilla Delgado acted her absolute heart out in this episode. Angel is spiraling out of control because her best friend Tish died from a bad batch of Lori's fentanyl. And Rue, trying to be honest and California sober, tells Angel the truth about the overdose.
Which is a massive mistake. It causes Angel to have a complete public breakdown. She's throwing up. She's passing out in the middle of the club. She's becoming a liability to a criminal enterprise. So Alamo pulls Rue aside and gives her a terrifying ultimatum.
Yeah.
Get Angel to voluntarily go to a sketchy rehab facility called Hope Springs, or Rue is fired. And Alamo even offers to pay for the rehab in cash and give Rue another promotion if she handles it quietly.
That car ride to the clinic, I was clutching my tequila glass so hard I almost shattered it. The tension was unbearable. Angel looks at Rue completely dead-eyed and says, "California is where the most people go missing in America. It's like there's a big magnet under the soil attracting evil." She knew. She knew she was being sent to her doom, and Rue just kept driving.
Analytically, the red flags at that clinic were blinding. Let's list the mechanics of what is clearly a human trafficking front. 1. No paperwork to sign upon entry. No medical history taken.
Terrifying.
2. The receptionist avoids all eye contact with Rue and Angel. 3. The receptionist has visibly dirty, unkempt fingernails, which implies a lack of medical hygiene or professional standards. And 4. The most glaring, terrifying detail. The absolute second Rue drops Angel off and drives away, an unmarked ambulance pulls up to the back of the clinic.
Are we watching a trafficking storyline? Did Alamo just sell this poor girl to a cartel to get rid of a liability who knew too much about Tish's death? I am physically sick with worry for Angel.
It is highly probable. Alamo is not a philanthropist. He does not care about Angel's sobriety. He is a criminal tying up loose ends. He used Rue to deliver the package so his hands stay clean. And Rue, traumatized by leaving her there, realizing she just made a literal deal with the devil to keep her job, seeks out the only comfort she knows from her past.
She goes to visit Jules. And I actively mourned. I watched the scene and I mourned the death of the old Jules.
It was a stark, depressing contrast to the high school seasons. Rue tracks her down and finds her living in a massive, sterile, luxury penthouse. Jules has completely dropped out of Parsons Art School. She is fully living as a sugar baby. entirely funded by a wealthy married man who she only has to see twice a month.
She's wearing this incredibly long, hip-length wig. She is cold. She is hardened. She speaks in this monotone voice. She tells Rue she doesn't believe in monogamy anymore and that love is a scam. The lighthearted, anime-inspired, creative warmth of teenage Jules is completely, utterly gone. She is a ghost.
Yeah.
And the Snark squad on Reddit is so upset about this. They feel like Jules went from having this beautiful, complex, unique character arc about ambition and trans identity to just being thrown into hollow sex work for shock value.
I understand why the fans are upset, but it perfectly aligns with the central thesis of the season. Everyone is hustling. Everyone is selling a piece of themselves to survive this corrupted American dream. Think about it structurally. Maddie is selling Kaylin's image. Cassie is selling her own humiliation. Nate is selling fake morality to his neighbors. Rue is selling her soul to a cartel boss. And Jules is selling her youth and her art to a married man. They are all participating in the exact same transactional economy.
And the episode ends on that haunting, quiet final shot. Jules, sitting in that massive marble tub, inviting Rue into the bath, just looking at her and saying, we can't just show up after all this time and think everything's going to be the same. Chills. Literal chills down my spine.
Which brings us perfectly into our breakdown segments. Segment 1, most unhinged moment. What had you staring at the screen, mouth open, questioning your life choices and your premium cable subscription?
Without a doubt, it was Cassie's baby photo shoot. I am emotionally scarred by it. The sheer humiliation of the act itself, paired with the desperation for attention. But what makes it truly unhinged is that Maddie is sitting right there, fully sanctioning it as her new manager. Maddie is adjusting the lighting while Cassie sucks on a pacifier. It is so dark and so pathetic. I was staring at the screen thinking, we have lost the plot, and the plot is now wearing a diaper.
I hear you, but my nomination goes to the literal farm pig defecating on Laurie's floor while Faye asks, is that a dinosaur? Because logically, you have to imagine the production meetings for that scene. How does a writer sit down, type that sequence of events, pitch it to executives, hire an animal wrangler, film it, edit it, and broadcast it to 8.5 million people? The logistical insanity of producing that scene is what makes it the most unhinged moment for me.
It's testing our limits. Sam Levinson is standing in an editing bay, turning up a dial labeled chaos and laughing as we all spiral into madness. What do you think was the true rock bottom moment for the viewers?
Honestly, I think the rock bottom moment is the meta-realization that we are entirely complicit because we keep watching. We are the ultimate voyeurs. Maddie is selling Cassie's image, Jules is selling her time, but the network is selling us this trauma porn, and we are eating it up with a spoon every Sunday night. We are the consumers driving the market.
Okay, that is entirely too deep and too real for Sunday Night Tequila. I feel attacked. Let's move to segment 2, Who Needs Help? Be Real. Out of this entire cast of train wrecks, who are we genuinely worried about right now?
You go first.
Angel. I am emotionally devastated over Angel. We are deeply, deeply worried about her physical safety. I am convinced Alamo just sent her to her death or a trafficking ring or something worse, and Rue is going to have to live with that guilt forever. Yeah. And also Cassie. Cassie needs psychological help immediately. She has entirely lost her identity to male validation. She looked at Maddie by the pool and genuinely asked, but who am I? She is a hollow shell waiting for a man to tell her what shape to take.
Okay, your emotional empathy for Angel is noted and valid, but let's be analytical here. The person who is in the most immediate, mathematically certain, life-threatening danger is Nate Jacobs. Do the math. You owe $550,000 to an underworld mobster. You are starting a fake nursing home to scam your elderly neighbors, which is federal wire fraud. And your biggest concern is saving face at a BBQ and paying $50,000 for wedding flowers.
He is completely delusional.
He is building a financial house of cards on top of a sinkhole, and it is about to violently collapse. Nas is going to bump that debt to $600,000 by Friday, and Nate has zero liquid assets. He is hoarding leftover potato salad. He cannot pay this debt. He is a dead man walking.
Okay, fair point. The mob is definitely scarier than an identity crisis.
But moving to segment 3, main character energy. Who owned this episode? I am ready to debate you on this because I have a strong stance.
Bring it. Lay out your thesis.
I argue for Rue. She is playing both sides of a cartel war. She is covering up fentanyl murders in the back of a strip club. She is managing a roster of adult dancers. She is hooking up in parking lots. She is chauffeuring girls to fake rehabs. And she is somehow claiming to be California sober while orchestrating all of this. Zendaya's acting is the gravitational pull of Euphoria. She is the only thing holding the chaotic, fragmented plot of this show together.
Zendaya is a generational talent, yes.
Yeah.
I will not dispute that. But the true main character energy of America My Dream unequivocally belongs to Maddie Perez. Picture it again. Maddie, sitting by the pool, drinking Aperol spritzes, wearing a heavy fur coat in 90-degree Los Angeles weather,
That fur coat.
looking down at the girl who stole her high school boyfriend, ruined her senior year, and drove her to the brink of insanity, and deciding calmly to monetize that girl's humiliation for a 15% management fee.
When you put it like that,
It is dark, calculated, Machiavellian main character energy. Maddie isn't just surviving the frontier. She is architecting her revenge through capitalism. She is the boss now. She took the trauma Cassie inflicted on her and turned it into a revenue stream.
you are so right. The fur coat alone wins the episode, but the business model secures the crown. Okay, final segment. Segment 4. What would you do? If you were in this situation, how would you handle it? Let's get messy.
Let's run scenario 1. Nate and Cassie's debt. You are $550,000 in debt to the mob. Your partner is making absolute bank by embarrassing themselves on the internet wearing nothing but a baseball mitt and eye black. Do you swallow your pride, take the OnlyFans money, and let them pay off your debt so you don't get your kneecaps shattered with a tire iron? Or do you force them to delete it to save your pristine fake image at a neighborhood BBQ?
If the actual mob is knocking on my door, I am setting up the ring light myself. I will hold the camera. I will buy the props. I will adjust the exposure. I am not dying over suburban pride. I would look at Cassie and say, post the dog pictures, post the baby pictures, post the baseball pictures, post whatever you need to post to get us to 600 grand by Friday.
Logically, pride does not pay off Russian moneylenders. Nate's ego is going to get him killed.
Yeah.
I would be Caitlin's manager. I would be Cassie's manager. I would manage the dinosaur pig if it paid the bills and kept me alive.
Okay, scenario 2. Ruse dilemma. Your boss, who is a literal cartel-adjacent criminal, tells you to drop a young, vulnerable girl off at a terrifying, unverified rehab clinic in the middle of nowhere. No paperwork, dirty fingernails on the staff, an ambulance waiting in the alley. Do you do it to secure your promotion and save your own skin from Alamo's wrath, or do you drive away with her?
Analytically, if I hit the gas and drive away with her, Alamo hunts us down and kills us both. Rue is in a hostage situation disguised as employment. She has no good options. But morally, you cannot leave that girl there. The second I saw that ambulance pulling up, I would have hit the gas, thrown my phone out the window so we couldn't be tracked, tying it back to our location-sharing Davik, and driven us straight across the border to Mexico.
I wouldn't even make it that far. I would be crying. I would be hyperventilating. I would probably crash the car into a cactus on the side of the highway. I wouldn't survive a single day in the Euphoria universe. I would be crying in the corner of the Silver Slipper break room on day 1.
None of us would survive. We are dental professionals who complain about the logistics of making dinner reservations for tapas. We are fundamentally not equipped for cartel turf wars, fentanyl cover-ups, and managing OnlyFans accounts.
Oh my God. We need to wrap this up. My heart rate is completely through the roof. I need a nap and a glass of water.
Let's summarize the absolute wreckage of this week's conversation. We started with tequila-fueled chaos. We had emotional spirals over apartment hunting and Potemkin landlords. We debated the ethical boundaries of surveillance capitalism and location sharing in modern romance. And we completely unpacked the utter, unmitigated Tarantino-esque madness of Euphoria, Season 3, Episode 2.
So, Snark Squad, we have to ask you, are you watching this season? Are you hate-watching it just to complain on Reddit? Or are you fully, genuinely invested in this wild new direction?
And more importantly, tying back to our debate, do you share your location? We need to know where the squad stands on this critical privacy issue. Are you team surveillance or team boundaries?
And, babes, are we okay after that episode? Because I am fundamentally not. But I am going to leave you with one final provocative thought to ruin your week and keep you up at night. What if Juana the housekeeper isn't just a passive bystander in Cassie's life? What if Juana is actually the mastermind behind Cassie's downfall? Think about it. She has taken the photos, she sees the financials, she hears all the secrets in that house. What if she is slowly, methodically dismantling the Jacobs empire from the inside? America. My dream. Think about the layers.
Now that is a structural theory I can get behind. The quiet, ignored observer, taking down the rotting house of cards from the foundation up. Let's see if it plays out.
Reminders for the week. Rate, review, subscribe.
Send us your submissions and your most chaotic life stories. We want to hear your highs, your lows, and your absolute worst apartment tours. Send us the Zillow links.
Send this conversation to your most dramatic friend. You know exactly who I'm talking about. The one who would definitely force you to delete your OnlyFans at a BBQ. Thank you, Snark Squad, for spiraling with us tonight. We love you so much.
Hey, Shady.
Stay iconic. And we'll see you on the Snark side.